The Wells Report begins in 20 seconds. The Wells Report begins in 10 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. On this broadcast, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We depropagandize the mainstream media. We do make commentary. Commentary is not news. Commentary is opinion, both yours and mine, and so we share. We debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Good morning, and I mean morning. It's 8 o'clock. Why are we here so soon? Why don't we wait until 11 to 1 like we normally do? Well, I have an important business meeting today with a dear friend of mine. His name's Rob Doyle, and he has a very interesting, shall we say, concept that you might be interested in. I'll know more later after our meeting, but I think you might, and we might be able to find ourselves in a position where it might be a very lucrative opportunity. So I will share that with you if I can. I think I will. And indeed, we will do that probably tomorrow here on the Wells Report when we go back to our normal time. It's too early. You know, I used to do mornings on radio. I mean, I did it for like 20 years, and I used to get up at 3:30 in the morning, ready to go. Well, that's not the case anymore. It's too early. I like the swing shift. I like working from 3 to 11 on my other job. And this is horrifying. So speaking of horrifying, a Senate Democrat is incredibly worried about the prospects of Joe Biden defeating Donald Trump. His name is Senator Michael Bennet. He is the Democrat from Colorado. And he said last night he believes President Joe Biden cannot beat former President Donald Trump. These are stark comments, and he made them on CNN last night. And I thought you'd like to see him. So let's go ahead to that report so you have some idea of just exactly what's going on from a political standpoint, not so much from the House of Representatives this time, but no, now the Senate is beginning to weigh in, and Michael Bennet had a lot to say last night.
Dana Bash reported that you, Senator Jon Tester, and Senator Sherrod Brown all said during that lunch that you don't think President Biden can win in 2024. Is that true?
Well, it's true that I said that. And I did say that behind closed doors. And you guys and others asked whether I'd said it. And that is what I said. So I figured I should come here and say it publicly.
Why do you think he can't win in November?
I just think this race is on a trajectory that is very worrisome if you care about the future of this country. Joe Biden was 9 points up at this time. The last time he was running, Hillary Clinton was 5 points up. This is the first time in more than 20 years that a Republican president has been up in this part of the campaign. Donald Trump is on track, I think, to win this election and maybe win it by a landslide and take with him the Senate and the House. And so for me, this isn't a question about polling. It's not a question about politics. It's a moral question about the future of our country. And I think it's critically important for us to come to grips with what we face if together we put this country on the path of electing Donald Trump again.
So you're worried that your party is not just going to lose the White House if Joe Biden is at the top of the ticket, but that you're also going to lose both chambers of Congress?
I think that we could lose the whole thing. And it's staggering to me. I mean, Donald Trump's already been president. I thought he was the worst president that we've ever had. He already took away, the right for women to be able to make their own decisions around health care. He's already put 3 extreme Supreme Court justices on the court that wouldn't even survive a vet in the old days, but now are on the court because Donald Trump did it. These are all the things he's already done. And today, as we're sitting here, he's 3.5 points ahead in the polls. He was ahead before President Biden had that very unfortunate debate. And the lead has been growing. And we have 4 months to figure out how we're going to save the country from Donald Trump. And when I think about the kids that I used to work for in the Denver public schools, when I was their superintendent, most of whom are kids of color, most of whom are kids living in poverty in a country with incredibly low economic mobility, and where the poverty rates are growing, and where the economic unfairness, I think, is producing Donald Trump in many ways.
So you're saying the stakes are really high here?
The stakes could not be higher. I believe that if we elect Donald Trump president again, my generation of Americans will be the first generation to leave less opportunity, not more, to the kids coming after us. That's not Joe Biden I'm blaming for that. That's not the senators I'm blaming for that. That is our generation of Americans, and we cannot let that happen.
All right, so that's Michael Bennet. He is a Colorado senator, and this harbinges bad news for President Biden, in my view. It seems to me that when Richard Nixon got into trouble over Watergate and the cover-up and so on, they kept moving forward to impeachment, et cetera, and then at some point, a bunch of senators got into a limousine, headed to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and told Richard Nixon that he would be impeached if he didn't resign. And the president at the time, Richard Nixon, resigned. It's one thing to have the raucous House of Representatives talk about the possibilities that maybe the Democrat nominee does not have a chance to win. But when senators get involved, that's a totally different kettle of fish. And that is what the president is facing. Donald Trump is on track, I think, to win this election. This is a Democrat senator, Michael Bennet. He stopped short of calling upon Joe Biden to step out of the race, but made the case the Democrats have a moral obligation to do everything we can to beat Trump during an interview with Caitlin Collins on CNN. He noted that Biden was 9 percentage points ahead of Trump on a national level at this point in the 2020 cycle, that former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was 5 points ahead of Trump in the 2016 cycle. Biden is currently around 2 percentage points behind Trump as of last night. This, according to polling averages. Michael Bennet quoted a 3% deficit to Donald Trump. I'm sure President Biden has a different view of his prospects in this election than I do, but we should be having a discussion about that. And indeed, that is the case. In my humble opinion, I believe that, yeah, the Democrats have boxed themselves into a very bad corner, and they should be talking about ways of getting out of it. Now, that being said, that's exactly what's happening. This national dialogue has decidedly shifted away from Joe Biden is fine, Joe Biden is sharp as a tack, Joe Biden is, gosh, I mean, he runs circles around everybody until he falls down. Anyway, that being said, it is not true. And we saw it all for ourselves. I said at the outset of the Trump-Biden debate that President Biden had lost his presidency and indeed his viability as a candidate for 2024. I'm absolutely sure that that's the case. The question is, what will the Democrats do about it? What will they do? How will they go about this? And I tell you, that's going to be something that these Democrats are going to not back away from. They are going to indeed do something about this. The infirmity has drawn the attention of the mainstream media, which has decidedly turned against President Biden. And we have an example of that. Peter Doocy from Fox News was talking to KJP, Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary of the President of the United States. And he asked a very poignant question regarding what would happen in a very bad situation.
Does President Biden commit to serving a full second term if reelected?
Yes.
Thank you. We know the president says that his health is fine, but it's just his brain, and that he's sharpest before.
He was joking, by the way. I just want to make sure that that's out there. And he was making a lighthearted joke as he was speaking off. He's speaking off the cuff and he was making a joke. You know, the president, he likes to joke a lot. He's the same guy who says, "I know I look 40," right? So he likes to make jokes. It is a joke. I think people laugh when he says it.
Well, he also said he's sharpest before 8 p.m. So say that the Pentagon at some point picks up an incoming nuke. It's 11 p.m. Who do you call? The First Lady?
He has a team that lets him know of any news that is pertinent and important to the American people. He has someone that is decided, obviously, with his National Security Council on who gets to tell him that news.
So Kevin McCarthy just said that when he was the speaker, many times when we had meetings in the Oval Office, Jill was there as well. When the First Lady's in these meetings, is she making decisions or is she just advising the president?
No.
All right. So, just exactly who is running the Biden administration? This keeps coming up often. And it's not something that is just something you can laugh off. You can't do that. This president, and I'm not talking about his character here. I mean, he's got deficits like everybody else. But what I'm talking about is capability. And when you start thinking about the capabilities of this president, that's what people are looking at. They're looking at infirmity here. And this is a problem for President Biden. Again, this is not going anywhere. And let's face it, President Biden is not running the Biden administration. People keep asking who's advising the president. There are a lot of people advising the president. They're not advising so much as they're telling him what to do next. I mean, who writes those note cards? Who puts the scripts into the teleprompters? It's not Joe Biden. Joe Biden speaks off the cuff and blows it. Whenever he is off script, he is a menace. Not just to, not so much, rather, for the country of the United States, but certainly for the political process that put him in power and the media that sustained it, the media that did not cover the Biden presidency, but indeed covered up the Biden presidency. And those people are being called out, and they are backpedaling as fast as they possibly can to try to hang on to shreds of credibility that they no longer have. And that is something that is going on also right now. Remember, the NATO summit is in Washington, D.C., and those guys are trying to figure out exactly what's going on with the presidency and indeed with the presidential election. USA Today reports it as follows. NATO leaders returned this week to the auditorium where the alliance was born to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the NATO Military Defense Pact and mull over their current and future threats. But hanging over the three-day summit like a dark cloud, says USA Today, is a major concern that is not on the official agenda. The U.S. presidential election, President Joe Biden's physical and mental fitness after last month's calamitous debate, and former President Donald Trump's possible return to the White House following the November elections are cause for alarm among European allies. And you're saying to yourself, why? Well, because there's been some loose rhetoric regarding Donald Trump trying to disband NATO or take the United States out of it. That will never happen. That is another one of these canards. It's another hoax. It's a mini hoax, but it's never going to happen. And I'm going to tell you personally and honestly that NATO is going to be fine under Donald Trump. Why are these people all worried? Because it's going to cost them a lot of money. That's why. Everybody in NATO says 2% of GDP is what you have to contribute from a standpoint of money for military operations, materiel, etc. And they would like to spend that money on other projects, political projects, their pet pork project. And that's why they're concerned about Donald Trump, because Donald Trump called them on not paying their dues. And that is not a bad thing. But all of this centers around the infirmity of Joe Biden. And what do you think about that? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Early in the morning. This is the Wells Report. Back in a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia.
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report, a little bit earlier than normal. We normally are on from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Time, but today I've got a very important business meeting that may be lucrative for all of us. And I've got that following this broadcast, so I'm a little early today. I hope you enjoy the show nonetheless. And we're talking about exactly what the Democrats are going to do regarding Joe Biden, who is defiantly saying that he's going to stay in the race. Many people are saying if he does, they're going to lose. And those are Democrats saying that. And there are a lot of other people saying that they should be doing something about it. We just heard from Michael Bennet, who is the senator from Colorado. He's a Democrat, saying that he believes that Trump is on track to win this election. There are other people that you know that are indeed calling for the same thing. We'll get to more of that coming up in just a couple of moments. There's an op-ed today in USA Today from Maria Bautista. And Maria Bautista is talking about the prospects of Kamala Harris taking over the ticket. And in this op-ed, she says the following. She says that despite the nation's progress in social equality, the systemic power held by older white men in America continues to obstruct the paths to success for younger black women. Obviously, this is a racist thing that is deleterious to the unity of the United States of America. This is a very divisive piece. But what's fascinating about it is that for the first time that I can remember, at least in this election cycle, Ms. Bautista is not talking about those evil old Republican white men. She's talking about Democrats. That's what she's saying. She talks about older white men in America standing in the way of younger black women. The most current example, she says, President Joe Biden. Members of Congress and other Democrat leaders have called on Biden to step aside as their party's presidential nominee, with some suggesting that Harris should take his place. This after a devastating debate performance 2 weeks ago, but the president is not backing down. On Friday, Biden sat down with ABC News' George Stephanopoulos in an attempt to convince America that he is mentally and physically fit to serve. He failed, says Bautista. The interview, much like the debate, lacked luster, left us with more questions than answers. Our nation needs to move on and open the door for younger, more capable candidates like Kamala Harris, the first black, South Asian, and female vice president of the United States, rife with racism in this. It's a commentary on just exactly where racism has gone in the United States. It was virulent in the late 60s. It was horrifying, in the late 50s. It was horrifying in the 60s. We had an entire decade of black Americans fighting for equality in these United States. Racism was horrific. After 1968, people said, hey, wait a minute, they're serious about this, and things began to change. In the 70s, I was a 70s kid. I went to high school in the 70s, graduating in 1976. We had pretty much erased any kind of real worry or concern about racism in the United States. Through the 80s, that was consolidated. And through the 90s, everybody had pretty much moved on. And then we elected President Barack Obama. And the people who had been exploiting race realized that they may have come to the end of the rainbow and not finding gold, but finding irrelevance. And so American racism was rekindled, but in a different way. It was rekindled as an exploitative, divisive measure to retain political power. And that's where we find Ms. Bautista here this morning, talking about how older white men are in the way. I guarantee you that anyone, white, black, male, female, Asian, brown, orange, blue, purple, if they have the right message, they can rise to political power. It is the nature of the beast. But you have to have policies that people actually care about. And the question remains, based on this particular op-ed, does Kamala Harris have those agenda items ready to be able to enchant a nation and garner the kind of support it takes to become this nation's president? In my view, the answer is no. Vehemently no. This is the Wells Report.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. I am John David Wells. And yeah, it's way too early to have this broadcast on the air. We normally broadcast from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Time. But I've got an important business meeting, and I'm going to take that. So I'm doing the show a little bit earlier. Thank you very much for waking up with me first thing in the morning to discuss today's news. The Daily Show, Jon Stewart. He is the host of that broadcast on Mondays. He's a brilliant human being. He just plain is. He's calling out the Democrat Party for not pursuing other candidates after Joe Biden's rocky first debate performance and said 4 months is enough time to find a replacement for him on the party's November ticket. In a monologue on his satirical news television show, The Daily Show, Stewart contrasted the United States' drawn-out campaign cycle with a quicker, sometimes only weeks-long election held in other countries. More about that in a minute. He said that Biden's debate performance June 27th, which prompted several Democrats to call for him to step aside, was a shocking display of cognitive difficulty. Stewart did not directly call on the president to drop out, but said the Democrat Party should test his candidacy. Can we open up the conversation? Do you understand the opportunity here? Do you have any idea how thirsty Americans are for any hint of inspiration or leadership and a release from this choice between a megalomaniac and a suffocating gerontocracy? Wow. Very big words, Jon Stewart. He continued criticizing the White House and the Biden-Harris 2024 campaign's messaging and spin since the debate. Stewart, who is no fan of former President Donald Trump, made the case that Biden's insistence on staying on the race or in the race is irresponsible. Quote, the redemption tour hasn't gone that much better. We're told that the threat of Trump is so great, the stakes are so high that even bringing up these obviously or absolutely legitimate concerns about the president's ability to do the most vigorous job in the world for the next 4 years is enabling fascism. Yet even the president doesn't seem particularly alarmed. That's Jon Stewart. Charlemagne the God, but Charlemagne is also another brilliant human being who is very clear-eyed, even from a Democrat perspective. This guy has it. He's a radio host. Charlemagne the God urged Democrats yesterday to answer President Biden's challenge to run against him in the Democrat National Convention. Amid calls for him to step aside and allow other Democrats to run at the top of the ticket, Biden called on into MSNBC's Morning Joe. We gave you a piece of that video, and declared, hey, I'm not going anywhere. During the interview, Biden slammed elites that he claimed run the Democrat Party. They don't just run the Democrat Party, sir. They run your presidency, and you know it. These elites are the reason you're in the presidency in the first place, and the price that you paid, the sellout of your personal presidential agenda to those people who put you in that office, to come back and say that they're wrong is wrong. It's starting to border on hubris, sir. And I agree with Charlemagne the God. And this is because, not necessarily because of Joe Biden's mental capacity from a standpoint of being able to think. It's a question about whether or not he's able to actually communicate well enough to be the inspiring voice that Jon Stewart's calling for. There's a doctor out there who believes that the president is quite easy to diagnose, and he talks about Parkinsonism, and that the president, in his particular opinion, believes that that is indeed the case. This was on CBS. Check this out.
I'm joined tonight by Dr. Tom Pitts. He's a quadruple board certified neurologist. He sees patients with Parkinson's all the time. He diagnoses it. I want to be completely transparent here. You've never examined President Biden. From my knowledge, you've never even spoken yet to President Biden. Been in this room and we're just going to use what we have so far, which is what we've seen, the president's interviews, and the information coming out of the White House. So my first question to you is, as somebody who's a neurologist, what you've seen from the president over the last 2 years, what you saw at the debate, the last few interviews, the way he speaks, the way maybe he walks, have you noticed anything that gives you a red flag as a doctor?
Oh, yeah. I see him 20 times a day in clinic. I mean, it's ironic because he has just such classic features of neurodegeneration. I mean, word finding difficulties, and that's not, I couldn't find the word. That's from degeneration of the word retrieval area.
He's also overcome stuttering, though. Could that be part of that, too?
No, this is not a palatal issue or a speech discrepancy, which is very different from a lemma dysfunction, actual word retrieval, where you pick a similar question or talk around the issue, plus the rigidity, monotone voice.
Wait, go back to that, the rigidity. What do you mean?
Rigidity, loss of arm swing, standing up lordotically. You notice when he turns, it's kind of end block turning. It's not a quick turn. So that's one of the hallmarks of Parkinson's is rigidity and bradykinesia, slow movement. And he has that hallmark, especially with the low voice that said was a cold, hypophonia. A small monotone voice like this over time is a hallmark of Parkinsonism. I could have diagnosed him from across the mall.
Here are some of the symptoms from Parkinson's. We just had him up there on the screen. If we can put him back. What about the movement? Some people have pointed out the way he walks. Sometimes it's not very fast, small steps. Is that something that is common in people who are battling a disease like Parkinson's?
Yeah, it's a hallmark. Shuffling gait, we call that. So little steps. Loss of arm swing from the rigidity. When we walk, we have a nice cadence. You notice he doesn't really swing his arms. And end block turning, meaning he kind of pivots around his foot. If you said, hey, President Biden, he wouldn't go like this. So, yeah.
But I also know, tell me if I'm wrong here, it's very hard to diagnose Parkinson's, isn't it? it's not simple. I mean, I've heard that it can be.
It's one of the easier movement disorders to diagnose, actually.
Right,
but it's so clinic. There's very little other. And I'm a Democrat. I always say about this.
Right.
It's just like this guy is not a hard case.
But I've had relatives who have gone through neurological issues, and I've heard that sometimes Parkinson's is not very easy to nail. You have to take a lot of tests.
It's early on. If you're just presented with like hallucinations, that could be a variety of things, or just the cognitive problems. That could be Alzheimer's versus Parkinsonism, and that becomes a little nebulous. But once you start manifesting the hallmark motor symptoms,
right?
Slow movement, rigidity, mass facies, hypophonia. I mean, if a med student did not pick Parkinson's on the test, they'd be remediated.
So let me ask you, if you had, and I know you have no idea what happened in the White House, but a neurologist coming 8 times in 8 months, does that tell you anything? Is that, I mean, I know you're just sort of speculating here, but does that tell you anything or no?
Well, I mean, I don't know if they're like the best of friends or something, but that's a very specific, he's a movement disorder. That's a subspecialist in exactly what he has. And there's very few young people, like a Marine Guard. Most people would be med boarded out for any type of movement disorder at a young age. Like if you had Huntington's chorea, early onset Parkinson's, dystonia, bad essential tremor, you're usually med boarded out.
And then, a lot of people have called for a cognitive test. What exactly would that entail? What does that mean?
Now, that's the key, because word finding retrieval doesn't necessarily mean you don't know what you want to say. What I cannot comment on is his ability to make good decisions. His motor symptoms are degenerating. He has Parkinsonism. That is a fact. He has degeneration of the brain. Show me the MRI. Show me he doesn't. Put your money where your mouth is. He definitely has it. But the problem is, when you look at his situation, you can't say, oh, I know for a fact that because he didn't retrieve the word, he didn't know what he wanted to say. And that's why both him and Trump should take the 4-hour neuropsychological testing, which is the hallmark test for cognitive performance.
What do you do in this test?
Yeah, it's a very serious comprehensive exam. And a lot of people really fear going through all that to run through the drills and so on and actually submit to, say, finding out just exactly where your brain is vis-a-vis where you remember your brain was. It's very fearful. It's something that people are very concerned about. But speaking of concern, this president has all of these symptoms. Now, I happen to believe that it's old age dementia, but Parkinsonism is certainly in the cards here. And this particular doctor is a guy who said, I could diagnose this guy from across the mall. I remember when I saw President Biden walking, I was very concerned that this was a president dealing with brain degeneration. And I was right. And this guy has to realize, the president I'm talking about, has to realize that, hey, he's had a really, really good run. He's had a very good run for a political career that has spanned half a century, and he needs to step aside. And the Democrat Party is playing politics as always, like all political parties. It's not just Democrats. But these guys are trying to figure out just exactly who's going to lose the 2024 election to Donald Trump. Do they want to let Joe Biden go down with the ship? Do they want to burn another candidate in an effort to try to make a last-minute ditch effort to try to beat Donald Trump in the 2024 election? What are they going to do? They've talked about these snap primaries. Yeah, the snap primary of suddenly, all of a sudden saying, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to do what we should have done before, which was to have a primary season and actually pick a candidate and then go into a brokered convention. Well, the snap primary is not a great idea. The best way to do this is for Joe Biden to continue his presidency, saying that, okay, I'm going to finish this last few months of my presidency. I'm going to do this in style. I'm going to do the things that I think are important, and then I'm going to step aside. He should release his delegates and then allow the Democrat Party in Chicago to pick their candidate. That would actually be something that would invigorate Democrat voters as opposed to depressing all of them. I mean, a lot of people bought the spin. They said, oh, Joe Biden is just fine. He's not just fine. This is elder abuse. This is an error of judgment. And it's terrible. And I also believe that in that terrible circumstance, they now find that that they have a real problem. They've got a real problem here. And they're going to have to fix it. And the best way to fix it is to allow the delegates, 4,000 of them, who will descend on Chicago, and hopefully there won't be riots like the last time they were there in 1968. That was horrible. That was horrible. That was, oh gosh, that was, I know you don't probably understand just how horrible it was. I was a little kid. In 1968, I was 10. And I saw those riots live on national television. What you see, these little snippets of police officers beating people with these sticks, is just a particle of exactly what happened. It was chaos. I mean, it was horrifying to watch. And hopefully they won't have a repeat of all of that. They may, we'll see. But Joe Biden has a gut check, a definitive opportunity to step aside and allow the democratic process in the United States to actually function. You know, these people are following this Cloward Piven, juvenile academic idea of politics and political science. Accuse your opponents of what you yourself are doing. And they do it all the time. They say democracy is at stake, and yet they didn't have a primary season. That's a shot at democracy. They didn't allow the people of the United States to pick a Democrat candidate. They picked a Democrat candidate for them. And that is not democracy. That is leftist oligarchy. That is hubris-powered, we don't care what you think, this is government of the government, for the government, by the government, and we're going to move forward with it. And that's the mistake the Democrat Party made. In an open primary, Joe Biden would not have been the nominee in 2020. Who would have been the nominee? Chances are it would be Bernie Sanders, which would destroy the party. Why? Because Bernie Sanders, he's a fake, but he says he's a socialist. Becoming the Democrat Socialist Party with a socialist at the head of that party would end the Democrat Party as anyone would know it. Nobody would vote for it. Americans are too independent-minded. They are jealous guards of their opportunity found in America and nowhere else, especially in a socialist government paradigm. They're simply not. The American people will not tolerate politicians running everything. They can barely run their own party. They've outthought themselves. They slapped themselves on the back in their echo chamber and said, we can get anybody elected. Well, they certainly have. And they certainly can, and they certainly have. Because Joe Biden is anybody. Joe Biden is just another Democrat. A Jad, if you will. And they put him in the place of what a president should be for the sake of party politics. And it's coming home to roost. And who helped them the most? The mainstream media, the leftist media helped them the most. And the leftist media is also nominated in this gigantic mess that they have created for themselves. And what is the media doing about it? Well, what the media is doing about it is changing horses in midstream and hoping no one will notice. Well, there's a problem with that. Clear-eyed people interested in truth notice. And that's me. And I'll discuss that as we continue here on the Wells Report. Thanks very much for being with us again. We sincerely appreciate your participation in this broadcast. And we'll have more of it coming up in just a couple of moments here on the Wells Report.
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? low-cost airlines.
With one call to Low Cost Airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
This is the Wells Report. I am John David Wells. It is early in the morning. We are here a little bit earlier than normal. I have thrown everybody's schedules into disarray. By the way, if you want to pass the word, there will be recordings of this broadcast available on Patreon, YouTube, Facebook, etc. And you can watch this show at its normal time if you'd like to. That's 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Time. We were talking a little bit about calls for Joe Biden to step down. And Joe Biden essentially cast the die himself on Morning Joe on MSNBC when he said, hey, if all these guys that don't think I should run against me announce for president, challenge me at the convention. Well, that's exactly what they should do. That's exactly what they should do. It's quite possible indeed that Joe Biden went ahead and gave them the playbook. Charlemagne the God, who we've been talking about, we just did it before the break, played audio from the MSNBC interview on his Breakfast Club show and responded, all I hear is ego. I hope they take him up on his offer. Every single Democrat who feels like Democrats can't win if Biden is the nominee need to challenge him at the convention. Take him up on his offer. Charlemagne then added he'd been asking for months whether Biden-Harris was a winnable ticket. And if the answer is no, Biden should step aside. And people shouldn't be upset when folks say that, especially if y'all want to win. Charlemagne also rejected Biden's rhetoric juxtaposing the Democrat Party elite who says they want him replaced versus the average American who says still support him. Well, does the average American support Joe Biden? A lot of them do. A lot of them do. But that number, in my humble opinion, is shrinking. The support for Joe Biden began to erode as soon as Americans saw him on that debate stage. That was tragic. was tragic. I even predicted it. I said, this is going to be Donald Trump clubbing a baby seal. But it wasn't Donald Trump. The people who defeated Joe Biden at that debate were the people that put him up there in the first place. I said it was elder abuse. It's still elder abuse. It's awful. It's awful. And they need to do something about it. And like an intransigent, you know, I speak better when I have a little more opportunity to wake up. Anyway, the intransigence of this president is very much like trying to take the car keys away from your aged father. And that's what we're doing. But the car keys are not to a Buick. The car keys are to the United States of America. And these people calling for Joe Biden to step aside are, in my opinion, incredibly correct. And they should act on that. Now, whether they do or don't, really none of my business, except, of course, that I am an American, and I happen to believe in a very simple concept. The crucible of excellence is competition. And there is no competition here. There's no competition. There has been no competition. The Democrat Party, very happy in the puppeted presidency of Joe Biden, have had their way. They've had their way. I also talked a little bit about Jon Stewart. He said, other elections in other parts of the world are very, very quick. Well, that's because they have parliamentary systems. They already know who the prime minister is going to be. They don't have an executive branch of government. The presidency or the prime ministership of parliamentary systems is essentially a toy of the legislature. And the legislature in this country is checked and balanced by the executive and the judiciary. This tripartite government system works brilliantly to keep things from becoming overly politicized. But we have essentially, actually not we, but the party elites in the Democrat Party have circumvented all of that. They kind of like the parliamentary system because the legislative branch has much, much more power. The presidency, the prime ministership is just, say, for example, the Senate majority leader or the Speaker of the House. They are creatures of those bodies. And that's essentially what we have now. The party elite, so-called party elite, the party leadership of the Democrat Party just decided who the candidate was going to be. And they removed competition. And so they removed excellence. Nobody's saying that Joe Biden is a bad guy. They're just saying that he's a guy who's past it. He's not available for the vigor and rigor that is required of the presidency. And by the way, Jon Stewart made another really great point. And that really great point was we need inspirational leadership. The Democrats know how to do that. And you're saying they do? Yeah. Go back and listen to John Kennedy. That was a different Democrat Party. That was not a self-serving party. It was a selfless party. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. That's selflessness. That is the very best of liberal thought in the United States. Not what you can get out of government, not what government can do for you, but what you can do for the society around you, for your neighbors. That is the Democrat Party. What we see now is we see a distortion of that for the sake of politics. And it's equally tragic as watching Joe Biden struggle. That's my opinion. I'm John David Wells. What's yours? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Let's get together. Let's talk. What do you see? What do you think? Donald Trump went to Florida. He was at the Doral Country Club. And what did he say? We'll cover that next here on the Wells Report.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Okay, talk to you. Oh, hi. North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. I am John David Wells. On this broadcast, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We depropagandize the mainstream media. And yes, there is commentary. Commentary on this broadcast is not news. No, this is something that the mainstream media does all the time. You know, they report the news and then they spend a lot of time talking about what they think the news means. Except that's not what they do. They just talk about their personal opinions and think that everybody believes it's news. It's not. It's not. Your opinion is just as valuable as mine on this broadcast. So let's share them. Let's debate. Let's figure out what's going on in this country and what we should do about it in a nonpartisan way. Now, everybody says, John David says he's nonpartisan. That's ridiculous. He's a Trump guy. He's a Republican. No, I'm an American. I'm an American. And if you look at these two candidates, which one of these two candidates represents, in the best way, the American system? I just discussed how Joe Biden was part of a parliamentary system, a pseudo-parliamentary system of political elites that put him in power and run his administration, hiding behind his name and saying, well, if anything goes wrong, we'll just blame it on him. Right. And that's exactly what they're doing. And now they're figuring out who they want to have lose to Donald Trump in 2024. And they're saying, well, let's just keep Joe Biden in it. He says, I'm not going anywhere. Okay, fine, Mr. Biden. We'll just let you have your moment of stunning and gross defeat. And the only reason the Democrats are talking about it right now is because they're probably going to lose the House and Senate too, which is bad. People say, my God, you mean a Republican-controlled House and a Democrat-controlled House and a Democrat-controlled presidency is bad? Yeah, one-party rule sucks, especially in a two-party system. But you can't do anything about what the Democrats have done to themselves. They've engineered this, what appears to be an upcoming stunning defeat in the 2024 election. They have had it their way. They have made their decisions. They ignored the American people, their own voters. And they've installed President Biden in this puppeteered presidency. And now what are they going to do? Well, what they're going to do is lose. And once again, I keep saying this. For a vibrant America, it requires more than one point of view. It absolutely does. Remember what I just said? Competition is the crucible of excellence. And it is. It is. And so, when you remove competition, you remove excellence. When you remove excellence, you get calculated mediocrity. So what do you want? Do you want excellence in the presidency or do you want mediocrity? See, there he is. He's a Trump guy. He just said that Biden was mediocre and that means by implication that Trump is better. In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. Donald Trump's a loose cannon. He makes us nervous. Just as just as party leaders in the Democrat Party sit there with their rubbing their temples, their hands on their faces, waiting for the inevitable mess that Joe Biden is about to create, like the debate the other day. Many of us sit there and say, gosh, I wish President Trump would be more disciplined in his communication. This reporter, me, said Donald Trump, if he wants to be president, needs to start acting like a president. He's doing better. But that is a work in progress. The question comes down to the choice. If you're an American, like I am, then you look at this by saying, okay, so Donald Trump is a capitalist. Donald Trump is a business guy. Donald Trump understands the power rests in the people of the United States. And in all of those things, the Democrat Party has lost their way. I'm not denigrating the Democrat Party. I am reporting on it. This is what honest journalism looks like. This is what honest commentary looks like. I rally around the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights. That makes me a conservative in this political day and time. Thomas Jefferson was a liberal. But liberal in those days meant fierce defenders of freedom and liberty. Now it means do what we tell you, buy our light bulbs, get an electric car, eat bugs, do all of these things because we say so. No. And that is a course of action of their own doing. And now they're reaping the soon-to-be stunning defeat because of it. They say Donald Trump is a horrible human being. It's the worst president on earth. That's not true. He wasn't the worst president ever. He wasn't. People say that, including me, Biden is a puppet. He's the worst president ever. That may be the case, except for one thing. This isn't Joe Biden's presidency. This is the kingmaker's presidency. This is the puppeteer's presidency. And that's not American either. This is a nonpartisan broadcast. That's all there is to it. But you can't argue with the simple case of the matter that Joe Biden is past it. He is not the leader of the Democrat Party. And we don't know who is. We don't. Donald Trump talked a bunch about a lot of things at Doral. Local News 10. They did a great job on covering this. So what I want to do is I want to show you this report on Donald Trump at Doral in a rally in the Miami area talking about what he wants to do as president.
Calvin Eden, the former president has been dropping those hints for days. That's why we thought that question would be answered, but it was not tonight. Instead, this was that very familiar party of the Florida faithful that is now the party of Trump.
Hello, Doral.
A week of teasing the reveal. Donald Trump's pick for running mate waits for another day.
I think they probably think I'm going to be announcing that Marco is going to be vice president.
I've been seeing it for 3 years. Florida Senator Marco Rubio on the conventional wisdom shortlist was a warm-up speaker, as were a roster of GOP Florida lawmakers. The 10th hole of the Blue Monster at Trump Doral on this night is his campaign central. Trump rally SOP, riffing on polls, his prosecutions, and President Biden's bad debate night.
Let's do another debate this week so that Sleepy Joe Biden can prove to everyone all over the world that he has what it takes.
Headlining issues Republicans believe they can win on.
Americans want strong borders, not open borders.
With a distinctly Miami campaign theme.
In Florida, we don't like socialism.
Paramedics and police were busy with rescues of people overcome by waiting hours in triple-digit heat index. A crowd in the thousands from all over the state and across the country. And so the question is, who is candidate Trump's running mate? That waits another day, at least, or more. There are some people here tonight who think the fact that he did not announce in Florida, in Miami tonight, means that Marco Rubio may not be in the top tier, as we have been talking about all along. We'll see.
That was a great report. That was really well done. I mean, everything in it was first-class journalism, and I congratulate Local News 10 in Miami for doing such a great job on covering that particular event. Now, Donald Trump said, by the way, that he had 45,000 people. As a matter of fact, you'll hear that coming up in just a little bit. Didn't look like he had 45,000 people, but it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because as soon as you put yourself in a video situation where people can see what you're doing as well as hear it, then the audience grows exponentially. And so people are saying, well, who's the vice president going to be? Well, that's kind of counting the chickens, but let's just talk about this. Let's talk about who his running mate would be, except we're not going to. Why? Because it's not a story yet. It's not a story yet. All it is an opportunity to just gnash your teeth and flap your gums about who might be the choice. I report the news. I frankly don't care who his vice president is going to be. And as a matter of fact, Donald Trump said that himself. You know, it doesn't matter who the vice president is going to be, insofar as all that person is a president in waiting. Now, that's an important choice. I mean, personally, I would like him to pick Mike Pompeo. But Mike Pompeo is a guy who is white and who is old and would open up the opportunity for dividers to essentially point at the race card and throw the race card all over the place. And with every toss of that race card, this country hurts more. E pluribus unum. Of many, one. And we need to get back to that in this nation. We have to stand together as fellow citizens. Different points of view, fine. But civility. The framers called it amity. And indeed, the harshest thing that someone could say if they come to a disagreement that can't be resolved was best said by Sam Adams back in the 18th century when he said, "We simply disagree. So by all means, leave us in peace." That's the harshest thing that you could say. Getting into these profane fistfights on X, for example, doesn't do anybody any good. These flash ideas and the use of fascism. Fascism? Really? Fascism. You want to know what fascism is? Fascism is using the DOJ, the Justice Department and system of the United States, to prosecute political opponents. That's fascism. That's enforcing political party with public unrest. That's fascism. And the authors of that, except for one very notable exception, the Democrat Party. Yeah, Donald Trump was there on January 6th. And yes, he put a fiery speech out there and discussed that we should go let them hear our voice, which was immediately turned, let's go and fight like hell. Why? Well, because he said that. And corrupt news media organizations immediately put those two statements together. Let's go up there and fight like hell was the statement. There were provocateurs in the crowd, but they made a mistake when they crossed the police barrier. They made a bigger mistake when they put their hands on police officers. They shouldn't have touched anybody. They should not have done that. That was a huge error. But the BLM riots? No, that was a calculated move. That's fascism. And of course, Cloward and Piven, accuse your political opponents of what you yourself are doing. Well, there you go. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. The media's place in all of this. What exactly is it? Well, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about that as we continue with the Wells Report. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Let's get together and stand together as Americans, whether we disagree or not. 817-379-2172.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number 817-379-2172. Hey, if you find value in this broadcast, subscribe to it. Pass it around to your friends. Share it. Ask them to subscribe. Light the notification button so that you know when we're on the air. Like today, for example, I put the show on a little bit earlier today because I've got a really important business meeting that may be lucrative for all of us. Cross your fingers. I don't know. I got to go listen. So I moved the show to 8 to 10, but you're not going to know that unless you like the notification button, because I'm kind of a lousy publicist. Jube Dankworth handles all of that, but Jube is sitting there saying, gosh, John David, you do so many things wrong. I really can't save you. I understand completely. Anyway, and whatever you do, give us thumbs ups. Those are really helpful. They let people know that there are people interested in this broadcast. Again, our telephone number 817-379-2172. So one of the things decorating the presidential campaign this time around is golf. And yesterday at Doral, during Donald Trump's rally, most recent rally, he talked about that. Take a look at this report on the Wells Report.
So tonight I'm officially offering Joe the chance to redeem himself in front of the entire world. So Marco and Byron and everybody, here's what we're going to do. You guys can be referees if you like. Let's do another debate this week so that Sleepy Joe Biden can prove to everyone all over the world that he has what it takes to be president. But this time it will be man to man, no moderators, no holes barred. Just name the place, anytime, anywhere. And in the debate, Sleepy Joe also declared that he wanted to test his skills and stamina against mine on the golf course. Can you believe this? Did you ever see him swing? He's like this. That's why this evening I am also, and this is in honor of you and everybody, it is 45,000 people. That's a lot of people. I'm also officially challenging Crooked Joe to an 18-hole golf match right here. On Doral's Blue Monster, considered one of the greatest tournament golf courses anywhere in the world, one of the great courses of the world. It will be among the most watched sporting events in history, maybe bigger than the Ryder Cup or even the Masters. And I will even give Joe Biden 10 strokes aside. 10 strokes, that's a lot. That means 20 strokes in case you don't play golf. I will give him 10 strokes aside, and if he wins, I will give the charity of his choice, any charity that he wants, $1 million.
Well, that was a very astute political move, and brilliant, in fact. And well done, President Trump. That is actually presidential. Okay, that is not loose talk. That is not a situation where Donald Trump really screws up, because that is something that people can relate to. I don't know whether you've ever played any golf or not, but you go out to your local municipal golf course and you say, "Gosh, you know what? I'm a pretty good golfer." The other day, I was out with my golf buddy Ken Lynch, who kicked my butt by 11 strokes. Anyway, I said, "Hey, we feel pretty good." Well, one day we decided to go take on an Arnold Palmer designed golf course elsewhere in town, and that course ate our lunch. It's not that we were any better or worse as golfers, but the problems that these golf course architects put out there for you to solve with a good golf game, well, yeah, architecture matters. And the Blue Monster is a nightmare. I've never played it. I never will play it. You know why? Because there's no point in it. I'm not good enough to play Doral. And Joe Biden is barely good enough to walk. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? It's not going to happen because Joe Biden can't do it. Either the debate or the match. This is the Wells Report. Thanks very much for joining us. Back with more in just a moment.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. John David Wells at your service. Thanks very much for joining us. Stuart Varney has a show on Fox Business called Varney and Company. He's a British-American commentator. He's truly an amazing guy with great intellect and superb wit. He's out with an article that has to do with what odds makers and people who are trying to figure out who's going to win the presidential race in 2024. And it has some very interesting facts in it that we're going to get to in just a couple of moments. But he's talking a little bit today about the state of play in the American election. And this is what he had to say yesterday on Varney and Company.
You don't hear that much from Donald Trump these days. Gone are the daily press conferences from the courthouse. His rough language seems to have been trimmed back too. Now, this is not a new Donald Trump. It's a more politically astute Donald Trump. He's letting the Democrats destroy themselves. Why step in when your opponents are at each other's throats? Trump did appear with Sean Hannity last night. He was calm, measured, and steady. That's the image he wants to put across. Trump knows that if there were a slip, whether it's a nasty insult or a slurred word, every Democrat would jump on it and claim Trump is no better than their guy. Besides, what good would it do for the Trump campaign if he gives the Democrats a reason to be distracted from their own troubles? Trump is exploiting Biden's communication problem. He knows Biden can't compete in public discussion, and the longer the president stays in the basement, the better it looks for Trump. He wants Biden to stay in the race. He believes he will stay in the race. He told Sean Hannity he's got an ego and he doesn't want to quit. He said Jill, the First Lady, would like him to stay, but Trump is happy to have Biden stay in. Of course he is. His lead in the polls is widening, and it's chaos within the Democrat Party. Let him get on with that. Trump's feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah, and Stuart Varney has put his finger right on top of it. And he is, in a lot of ways, at least close to correct. Former President Trump's odds of returning to the White House, this according to Fox News, actually Fox Business News, are on an upward trajectory. President Biden's chances of re-election are in free fall as the Democrat Party, presumed as their nominee, faces mounting scrutiny over his ability to serve as commander-in-chief for a second term. As of Monday of this week, day before yesterday, The Economist's prediction model showed Trump had a roughly 3 in 4 chance, 74% of winning the Electoral College vote. Biden, a 1 in 4 chance. 3/4 of Americans, according to this particular model, 3/4 of Americans are looking very seriously at voting for President Trump. The model predicts Trump will rack up 310 electoral votes out of the 270 needed to win, compared to an expected 228 for Joe Biden. When the two candidates first squared off in 2020, Biden won the presidency with 306 electoral votes to Trump's 232. While Trump's chances have seen a boost of 3 points and Biden's dropped by the same amount since President Biden's disastrous performance at the debate between the two candidates on June 27th, Trump has held a commanding lead in the forecast for months, but the model shows that in early June, Trump's odds began to climb steadily while President Biden's plummeted. Trump is blowing Biden away in the betting markets, too. The Democrat faces growing calls from within his own party to bow out of the race, allow another candidate to step in. Prediction market Polymarket 2024, the presidential election forecast that came out yesterday, showed that Trump holds a 63% chance of winning the race, while Biden's odds are at 19%. On the day of the debate, traders on the platform bet Biden's odds of winning the election at 33%. It's now 19%. Boy, that was a disastrous debate performance. Meanwhile, recent polling shows Trump pulling further ahead of Biden post-debate. A Wall Street Journal poll conducted from June 29 through July 2nd found Trump would beat Biden 48 to 42% in a two-person matchup, the widest lead out of the Journal surveys since late 2021 and up from a 2-point lead in February. In a survey of 1,500 registered voters, 80% said that President Biden was too old to run for a second term, including 76% of Democrats. The sun has set on President Biden, and he needs to be aware of it. But chances are very likely that that's going to be difficult. And the reason it's going to be difficult is because of the machine that the Democrat Party has built around itself and around Joe Biden. A political machine, in order to be functional, in order to work, has to have 3 things. First of all, they have to have power to begin with. Then they have to have the media. Then they have to have roughnecks willing to go out and enforce their policies through physical coercion. The Democrat Party has built all 3 of those. And indeed, the circumstances exist whereby they are now stuck with the baked cake. Well, we know that they have the thuggery. We know that they have BLM rioters or Antifa or any number of other groups that are willing to go out and actually beat people into submission. Oh, no. What about the Proud Boys, huh? What about the Oath Keepers? What about those guys, huh? How many Wendy's did the Oath Keepers burn down? How many Target stores did the Proud Boys go in and loot? Yeah, I'm protesting George Floyd's murder by this wanton criminal cop by stealing a washing machine. Really? How many times did the Proud Boys do that? How many times did the Oath Keepers do that? The answer is 0. 0. By the way, there's a new group out there called the Patriot Front. I don't know who those guys are. They walk around in khakis and polos and masks. Boys, take off the masks. Because masks equal evil. That's kind of an aside. I thought I'd throw that out there for whatever it's worth. So the political machine, you got to have coercion, physical. You got to have power in the first place. And then you have to have the media. It has come to light that with at least regards to President Biden's health, the mainstream media has been lying to us, and they have been called out on it. And now what they're trying to do is rehabilitate themselves in some sort of mea culpa, which is massively ridiculous. I do this broadcast. To provide news that the mainstream media refuses to report in an honest way. That's why this broadcast exists. And you know it because you're watching it. It's not hard to simply stick with the facts. Is it sensational? No. Is it going to make you famous? Hell no. I know this personally. Not that I care about fame in the first place. I care about truth. And now, being called out for lying to the American people on one issue, although they've done it with a myriad of issues, they're trying to rehabilitate themselves. Let me give you an idea of what I'm talking about. People who have interviewed Joe Biden they have now come out and said, hey, you know, this guy's frail, and it's impossible not to notice. This being reported by Fox News, which, by the way, has taken part in this very same biased propagandist reporting. They just do it from the other side. It's equally as bad. The legacy media has faced intense scrutiny in recent weeks over its past coverage of President Biden, with critics accusing journalists of covering up his mental decline, which was on full display at last month's presidential debate. Perhaps the only members of the media beside the White House press corps who have had exposure to the generally media-reclusive president are those who have been able to interview him. Biden has shattered norms by granting fewer interviews than any other American president in modern history. Those reporters are able to sit down with him. They are given a rare window to observe whether Biden's mental health is as bad as conservative critics say it is, or as good as his liberal defenders claim. Nice writing there. That was really nice. The first interviewer, who had several interactions with Biden over the years, saw that he was stiffer physically when interviewing him this year. I noticed, especially in the context of his age and the reports of him being frail, he was, quote, the interviewer, he was. Okay, let me try that again. Quote, I noticed this especially in the context of his age and the reports of his being frail. He was, unquote. That was the interviewer telling Fox News Digital. His eyes were watery, once seemed maybe irritated, a bit glassy. I was left with the impression that he is old. It's impossible not to notice this, and he focused on it and be focused on it. His voice is so soft. Is it Parkinson's disease? It might be. The interviewer did acknowledge that Biden was fine with small talk. Nothing stood out as unusual as far as witnessing any mental lapses. I don't know if it's what people want to as president, said the interviewer. I'm not sure that that's what they want. But what I've seen isn't as good as his defenders say, and not as bad as his haters say. I don't know. That debate kind of closed the book on that for me. The second interviewer, who was similarly crossed paths with Biden in the past, noticed in their exchange last year the president walked a little stiffly across the room, but was engaged, responsive, and able to address my questions. I will say, he was careful not to go on at length with answers, the second interviewer told Fox News Digital. That's because he's a gaffe machine, and he knows it. It was clear he was trying to edit himself, possibly because he'd been coached to keep his answers short. Yes, he has. And every candidate goes through this. You have to learn how to communicate concisely. You have to be able to cover a very complex issue in as few words as possible. It's called staying on message. And it's a discipline that is very difficult to both develop and execute. Both of these interviewers expressed frustration about their years-long efforts to get their sit-downs with Biden on the books and pointed out how his team was upset that their conversations went longer than the allotted time they were granted. They were clearly guarding him carefully, and we've seen that too. We've seen a lot of that, in fact. We've seen it where White House staffers will suddenly say, okay, everybody, that's it, that's everything, when Biden starts to suffer, when he starts having a problem, when he starts rambling. I was watching a live sit-down on White House Live, which is the White House official feed of presidential videos, et cetera, et cetera. This was a live feed. He was talking with union workers, and he started rambling on some sort of story, and the event was immediately stopped. Who stopped it? That's the president of the United States. When he speaks, he's essentially issuing American policy. Why did they stop it? Who stopped it? Well, the people that didn't want him to trash himself in front of anybody watching. That's who. Who writes the cards? Who writes the cheat sheets? Who writes the scripts and the teleprompters? We don't know. But this guarding of this president from himself is something the media is adept at. President Biden's inner circle, says Fox News, were especially on guard in his post-debate interviews. 2 local hosts admitted the last week they were given questions to ask by the presidential team. One of them had already been ousted from her radio station. That's right. She actually said, hey, they gave me this list. I took the 4 that I wanted to ask, and I asked those questions. She's been fired, which is typical. This is typical. Radio management. What? They're bumbling idiots. A lot of them are, not all of them. Some of them are geniuses. Not every interview has been completely silent about their experience with the president. Remember former ESPN host Sage Steele, and keep in mind former, because suddenly she was out of a job. She spoke candidly about her March 2021 interview with Biden and how he trailed off in their conversation. It was satellite. It wasn't in person. We were having a technical issue, and so I had to BS. I had to chit-chat waiting for us to start rolling, said Steele, speaking with Bill Maher on his Club Random podcast last fall. Well, what he started to do, of course, he has someone next to him. They keep a black like curtain over the lens of the camera so you can't see him until the last second, but you can hear, we're chit-chatting. I can hear him, and he goes, what's this for? And he's like, who am I talking to? Wait, what's her name? Well, I've done that too. Maher said, this is like a Naked Gun movie. Bill. I was going, oh my God, Steele exclaimed. And then he said, Sports Center ESPN. And he goes, oh, okay. And so I said, what do you say? Hi, Mr. President. Nice to meet you. And so I'm trying to fill time. And he said, I used to play football. And he started telling football stories of his greatness. Again, I can't see him. You see the curtain. And he goes, and I have the best hands. What do you say to that? Well, you say, let's not talk about that, Mr. President. Here's my question. She said, oh, you were a receiver. And his voice trailed off, and he said, I was good. And then he went silent. Never mind. Right. The president is infirm, and the media is a player in it. And that is bad. Terrifically bad. And they should be ashamed of themselves. And just in case they are shameless, there's an op-ed piece by Brooke Leslie Rollins that will, shall we say, clarify the misconduct of a corrupt media in covering for a president as opposed to covering a presidency. That's next on the Wells Report. Stay with us.
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to Low Cost Airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
This is the Wells Report. Good morning, John David Wells looking at the chat room. Deeper Meaning says, there's new intel. President Biden remains on the ticket. If he wins, they immediately invoke the 25th Amendment, and Kamala is the new puppet president. I know Deeper Meanings. He is an astute commentator and analyst. It's a matter of fact, it's what he does for a living. And so that probably is the possible tactic that people might use. Let's see. Alicia said, "I wonder what changed after Biden got in. Everyone was hollering for Trump and talking about the hypocrisy of the left." Well, it's also the hypocrisy of the leftist media. Let's see. Yvonne says, "Saying prayers for your meeting." Me too. Yeah. And then Yvonne pointed out, maybe, an 18-hole match on Doral Blue Monster between President Trump and President Biden is a bit of a stretch. How about a game of putt-putt? I like that. Let's see, Mike. Mikey, how you doing, man? What are you doing? Let's see, the TV media has always been BS, says Alicia. Yeah. And said, how did the Biden administration policy get 50% children out of poverty but put more adults in? Well, that's because the adults weren't in the target group for that particular program, and that's garbage. The idea that 50% of children have been lifted out of poverty is a vaporous statement without any real basis. And then you go to the basis and you say, well, this is what our research showed. Yeah, okay. Your research showed that the COVID vaccines would work. Let's see, if they have 2/3 of the Senate and the House to put Kamala in, she'll never make it if they have to have 2/3 of the Senate and the House. Well, it depends who's running the show. We'll see. Remember, Republicans will vote with Democrats when it's in their mind, when it's politically astute to do so. It's ridiculous. So let's talk a little bit about Brooke Leslie Rollins and her latest op-ed. This in the pages of Fox News. The public immolation of President Joe Biden's personal credibility shoves the media apparatus that propelled him to power into a tough jam. In the past 2 weeks, everything that was obvious to close observers for the past 3 years is now in the open. President Biden is infirm, unfit, unwell. It comes as a surprise only to those millions of Americans who trust the liberal legacy media, the latter being a cohort that by and large hates those millions' way of life and has no compunction over lying to them. Item number 1 on the list of the lies they've told: the President of the United States was just fine, wholly competent, not stricken with the ravages of advanced age. Now, in the aftermath of not one but 2 nationally televised expositions on his incapacity, both the presidential debate and the follow-up ABC News interview, there's a new subgenre of media commentary on its favorite topic, itself. We were misled, is the summary, according to Ms. Rollins. We were misled. But they weren't. They were partisans, and they covered for their man. Imagine for a moment Donald Trump or Mitt Romney or George W. Bush or Ronald Reagan having to be redirected at a public event by a man in an Easter bunny costume, or greeting a dead member of Congress, or confusing Egypt for Mexico. And then imagine the press giving a pass for it. Remember Gerald Ford? You probably don't. Gerald Ford fell down on a ski slope. And that became a running bit in the media and everywhere else that Gerald Ford was a clumsy dude. He was not. He was a varsity football player at the University of Michigan. The guy could move, but one fall on a ski slope. He also fell down the stairs, by the way, on Air Force One. Suddenly, he was the most physically inept president we'd ever had. Well, until recently. It's impossible, and the reason it's impossible, because she's talking about Donald Trump or any of the other Republican presidents making gaffes of this nature, and the press giving that person a pass. It's impossible for them to. The reason is impossible because the rules are different for the left and its mouthpieces. But all this actually happened to Joe Biden. They saw and they knew, and they lied about it until the moment that the mainstream media could not lie any longer. And it's awful. And it's terrible. And horrendous, in fact. And that's the situation. Now the media is angry. Their anger is putatively directed toward Biden and the team that misled them. But that's projection. They are angry at themselves. They weren't duped. They rushed into this headlong. The letter news media, MSNBC, NBC, CBS, CNN, ABC. They ran headlong into this with vigor and enthusiasm. And now their credibility in tatters along with an infirm president. Shame on them. Shame on them for lying to the American people, especially when it's so easy to tell the truth. It's just so easy to tell the truth. Why in heaven's name would you not? Why wouldn't you tell the truth? I don't know. Maybe that's for another day. This is the Wells Report. Yvonne says, is the show almost over? Yeah, we've got about 40 seconds. 40 seconds. I did this early. Please forgive me for doing it early, but I will be back at our normal time tomorrow, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. here on the Wells Report. For crying out loud, join us as we continue to bring news honestly and fairly, analysis, commentary, and debate. Until tomorrow, God bless you and yours. Be safe. Make good decisions in whatever you do. Keep the Wells Report in mind. Honest brokers of honest information and commentary. And you will all get together